Hey guys, welcome to another Brandable Minute. Now, today we're going to be talking about how to create a story scene. So, I'm going to be looking in my little black book and we're going to look at how I was parsing this thing out. Before we do that, though, you need to remember, don't worry, I think this one is going to be shorter today. You need to remember what a brand is, right? It's about distinction. You create that distinction, that differentiation in your product or service, which you then create eventually loyalty to those who are considered buyer personas, right? That's how it begins. Now, here's the thing, though, right? What you're going to do is you're going to then focus on this idea of the four components that make not a story, a brand, which is a set of stories, expectations, relationships, and memories that causes someone to choose your product or service time and time again. Okay. So now here's the cool thing. The cool thing is that you have to, I don't know if it's cool, but it definitely is interesting that you can break this down. One of the best ways of creating a brand is by first picking out your stories. Well, how is it that you're going to develop these marketing pieces? Because it's really eventually what you need to do. You need to tell these stories to other people so that they can start to have some sort of affinity towards your brand, right? Now, uh, this is, let's see here. So I broke it down into two ways. Okay. The first way is a setup. The second or the first step is a setup, and then the second step is a sequel. So a setup plus a sequel equals one scene. Now this isn't mine. I'm pretty sure that I've, referenced a few things in order to get to this space, but the point is this, guys. In order to create a solid story, you need the setup and you need the sequel. What is in the setup? Well, and it's so interesting that I keep give me a second here, forgetting to share the screen. So let's go ahead and do that right quick. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me go ahead and get this up. So just as a recap, remember we're doing a story. Let's see here. Let's grab one of these. Okay. We're creating a story, and the way that we create the story is by developing two things. We are developing the setup of the scene, and then we are developing the sequel of the scene. Okay. So just bear with me here for 1 second as we hit another brandable minute. I usually think that we're not gonna need this, but who am I kidding? We are definitely going to be using the screen. Why wouldn't we, right? So let's go ahead and share this. Okay. All right. So here we are. When you're dealing with the setup of how to create a scene, the first thing that you want to do is you want to look at your setup in a few ways. The first one is, this is part A, look at the want. The character has to want something. Okay, so this is about the character. The second thing is the obstacle. Something is between the character and the want. And then you've got the action, where the character acts, but it doesn't go well. So I'm going to put here, he acts, but it doesn't go well. That's like one of those, okay. And then there is the disaster. Yeah, it's got to get dicey here, where something happens when the character tries to get the want. Okay, so these are successive. These are successive right here, but you have to begin with what the character actually desires, and then there's some things that are going to prevent it from happening, and then we go through to the sequel. Now, the sequel is a little bit more nuanced because now take a look at this. You then have the reaction. This really makes the character come alive. And I wrote here, What is different now is that the character, what is different now that the character um, uh, had confrontation over the goal. So we'll work through that with the writing. The next thing is the dilemma. Whatever choice is set up that was made to overcome the obstacle results in the actual disaster. So this is where you have, and it points to the character's reaction. And I wrote here that that's key to showing this dilemma. So it's really kind of a what now? This person is in a jam. Okay. So he made a particular choice. Well, actually, I should put here it's dilemma, but he actually made a particular choice. And then he has to make the choice after the dilemma. The character must regroup internally and externally and to think, repair, react, and pause before making a particular choice. And then you have the reveal, which is revealing the inner character. Now, these are interesting here. So here's some of the notes that I've made, apparently, because even as I'm going through this as well with you, I'm like, how does some of this kind of come together? So I wrote here that the action scenes will make up most of what you write. Okay. So this right here is going to be where a lot of your content will be coming from. Scenes end with the action and it doesn't go well. So if the story is going well, it isn't going anywhere. Okay. So that's another thing as well. If it doesn't end with the disaster, then it's going to be difficult to try to move the story forward. There's not going to be the reaction to the disaster, the dilemma. Like, what did I do that caused me to be in this place to begin with? And then having to make the choice to choose between, what they're going to do next, and then revealing the inner character. That's interesting. That is probably the piece that we would have to sift through together, but we're not going to do that in this point. But just know that there is an inner character a component that needs to be revealed. And then I also wrote here, cut the scene right where it hurts the character and the reader. Okay. And then a scene is also a natural pause. It's a time for reflection. So let the theme sink in, just like the bridge in a piece of music. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that is that. Now, do we have an example? No, we do not have an example. And I definitely will not sit through and try to create one right now because I'm trying to make these things shorter. But this is the point. Let's recap. If you are creating a blog post or if you are creating any piece of content that requires you to tell some sort of story in maybe a classical way, guys, I would even say this could even work as a positioning paper as well, right? You're looking at a case study, you're looking at trying to make a person or trying to make a scenario come alive. You got to figure out first, and this is the same thing with buyer personas, you have to figure out first, what are they trying to do? Right? What are the jobs to be done? But before you even do that, you have to also discover, what do they want? You remember you were talking about the qualitative research and the quantitative research? This whole idea of the desire, this whole idea of trying to make the character come alive comes through the human element of, what do they desire as a person? Are they, whatever it is, it's a vacation, is it work, is it free time, which is vacation, I suppose, is it family, is it whatever it is, you have to discover that. But then there's a thing that prevents them from actually getting that thing done. Now, if you look at empathy maps, it's the same thing. Like, we're unpacking this together right now, but it's the same exact thing. What are the frustrations? What are the tangible, the real obstacles that's preventing this from actually happening? But this is now where it actually turns into a story and not just a customer journey map. That character, this person who you've now made real in the ordinary world, so to speak, is now doing very particular things in order to overcome the obstacle. They try and then they fail. And that's where this happens. And then Of course, if the story ended there, it would suck. Or if they did the action and they won, it's like, well, that's not really a story per se. It's just, it was almost like a Disney movie. But then you have to do the reaction. How are they responding to this? And why is this? I believe that now, as we're looking at this, that the sequel is really more about getting deeper into understanding the mind and the humanity of this character. So now you're showing them how they react to the failure. You're showing them in their dilemma on, well, how did I get here to begin with? And what choice do I need to make? You show them when they actually decide to make the choice, and then to reveal who they really are as they are now working through this next choice, because they're still trying to get to the want. Okay, guys. So that's it for this brandable minute. And I would suggest that you think about this not just in a classical, 3-act story kind of way. Push past that. Think about this in, so I'm focusing on patient experience, really user experience in healthcare. Think about how can you actually create stories, and not necessarily marketing, because they have to be marketed, but put aside the marketing campaign ideology for right now. Okay, put that away and just think about making the person that you're trying to eventually become, the perhaps golden persona of who you're trying to reach. You really have to understand their story, and then when you're able to do that, you can then market, you can then package the scenes with the setup and the sequel for people to be like, yeah, that's me. I understand that. Some of the most effective commercials, not the ones that are, gimmicky in the Super Bowl kind, but like the ones that go really deep, but in a quick way in understanding the dilemma of an individual. Those are the ones that have been very impactful, because you got the want, you got the action, you got the disaster, like you got the whole the whole nine. And at the end, they usually get the thing, right? They usually get the product, the food, or whatever it is. So I hope that that's helpful, because it's probably a different way of looking at how to experience writing content for not just marketing, but for your brand. You have to start with your brand first. You can't market something that you haven't created, and you need a set of stories so that people can remember them, expect them, all of those things in the brand. Then you can market it. All right. So I hope that that was helpful to you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.